Who's the creepiest woman you've ever met? I was sitting beside my friend when he was stalking his dad's girlfriend on Instagram. We were 15 at the time, and he was joking about how she was his sugar mommy. Except it wasn't really a joke. Every day he came into school completely dripped out in Balenciaga, Versace, Moncler. And whenever we went shopping together, he'd ask her for money to buy me something too. Her Instagram was what you'd expect. Photos of her dog lying in the sun, mirror selfies, photos of her food. I joked that he should introduce me to her, and the following weekend I found myself at their house enjoying a barbecue together. The first thing she said to me was, "You two are an overload of good genes, lucky me." I glanced over to my friend Oscar, expecting him to look as uncomfortable as me, but instead he smirked and I even saw his cheeks blush. Alarm bells went off in my head, but I brushed them aside thinking that it was my fault for having such a dirty mind. But the worst part was that when his dad came out, she would completely change. She'd go from being glued to Oscar to practically ignoring him, and as soon as his dad walked back into the house, she would turn hard-eyed like a girl in an anime show. But it wasn't until a few weeks later when she hosted a pool party that my worst thoughts were confirmed. I invited my older brother Alex to the party to get a second opinion. She kept playfully tugging at Oscar's swim trunks, teasingly saying they needed to be adjusted. As soon as me and Alex were alone, he shook his head. "I think you're overreacting. Women show love more through touch and verbal affection, so I think she's just trying to build a relationship with her stepson-to-be." I didn't believe him, but I desperately wanted to. So much so that I turned a blind eye to things that were worthy of having CPS called, rubbing sunscreen on her thighs, sitting extremely close together, kissing his neck. Like what in the skibbity toilet? And that night, while I lay awake in bed at 3 a.m., I heard some weird sounds coming from his bedroom, as well as a woman's voice, one that sounded like his dad's girlfriend. I didn't even think twice about privacy, just barged right in. They were sitting on his bed side by side, and she was helping him with last-minute math homework. I laughed out of relief. "What's wrong? Why do you look so freaked out?" Oscar asked, laughing even harder than me. "You didn't think?" his mom asked. "Well, I don't know. What was I supposed to think?" I blurted out. The air in the room was lighthearted. I figured my brother was right, and I should probably stop watching so much corn. From that point, Oscar kept coming to school with new clothes, and sometimes we even laughed about how twisted I had made things in my head. I followed his dad's girlfriend on Instagram too, and he upgraded from best friend to family. We were eating lunch together when I joked about how his dad's girlfriend would have cooked a better meal. I laughed, and he laughed too, except it was one of those laughs that were a little too hard. "Yeah, that woman can do anything." He said this while licking his lips and smirking. My mouth opened in shock, and the alarm bells that I had tried to ignore came flooding back all at once. Suddenly, he completely changed the topic to Jason Tatum being a better player than LeBron James, so my attention was immediately shifted and I never thought about it again. Until a few months later, that is. Because that's when his dad's girlfriend posted a pregnancy announcement on her Instagram. I thought it was weird since his dad was 55, and I didn't even think his swimmers were still intact. So the next day I brought it up to Oscar, thinking that we could gossip about it for a little while. Instead, his face went red. But it wasn't embarrassing, it was anger. "I don't want to talk about it," he said before grabbing his tray and moving to another table. We had eaten lunch together every day since 9th grade. I wanted to talk to him about it. But the next day he didn't come into school. And a week later, the guidance counselor told me he had dropped out because of mental health issues. Well, to me, that simply wasn't good enough. So I went to house at a time when I knew his dad and his girlfriend would be working. I got my big brother to knock on the door because I knew there was no way he'd open the door if he saw my face. He didn't answer, and when I turned the knob, the door was unlocked, so I just walked right in. I found him straight away. He was sitting on the couch in the living room with his head buried in his hands. His body was convulsing like he was crying. I immediately ran over to him and put my arm around his shoulder. "I really effed up," he kept repeating over and over again. I looked at him with extreme concern in my eyes, and with just 5 words, my life was flipped upside down. "I'm gonna be a father," he whispered. Full story on channel, link below.